Hey guys, welcome to the But Mostly Disney podcast. I'm Tater on this Memorial Day, and I'm here with my buddy Andrew.
Hello, everybody, and I'll go ahead and say it. Happy Memorial Day, everybody.
We had a conversation, and you can chime in, and I've corrected myself that I put out a post today with Happy Memorial Day, and was corrected that it really isn't supposed to be necessarily a happy day, that it really is a day for remembrance for folks who gave their lives for our country. I do think we've probably made it a little festive, and I come from a military family, and they said Happy Memorial Day, but people didn't like it, and the last thing I want to do is offend anybody, unless I'm really trying to, and in this case, I was not. So I corrected it, but it is Memorial Day, and it's a great day to be an American and think about how we got here and why we're here. And nothing in so many ways says America like the Mickey Mouse and Walt Disney in particular. We just played it a second ago, the beginning to Carousel of Progress, where they say Walt was probably as American as anybody ever could be. He loved his country.
Very much.
He said in an interview, "If you could see my eyes, the American flag is waving in both of them, and my spine is growing this red, white, and blue stripe." And it's, I think it's awfully easy to see this in almost everything Walt does. The movies, the shows. The first animatronic was Abraham Lincoln, right? That was his favorite president. He had a favorite president. Do you have a favorite president? Tell me below. Who's your favorite president?
Abe Lincoln.
I like Thomas Jefferson.
Well, you're Virginian, so that makes sense.
And we have the same we have the same birthday.
Oh, okay.
And we used to go up to Monticello all the time when I was a kid and go there and hang out.
I'd like the old Andrew Jackson, because Walt did a story of Andrew Jackson, the Swamp Fox, but
that's true.
I'll go with Honest Abe.
And Davy Crockett meets him, and he walks right into his tent. But there's a lot of I don't even know where to start or how to do it, like in chronological order for what he did, but when Walt was a kid, he recited the Gettysburg Address for his class dressed in costume. His father's church deacon coat with a swallowtail, an added crepe hair to his chin, and a wart to his cheek, and dressed in 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation conceived in liberty, dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we're engaged I can do the whole thing. I had a 5th grade teacher named Mr. Shukas, who, when you got in trouble, would make you write
Gettysburg Address.
Gettysburg Address. That's right.
We had to memorize it.
Karen says JFK, Carter, and Obama. And Teddy Roosevelt. There's a lot of good ones. I'm related. My middle name is Buchanan, and we're related to James Buchanan, but I don't think he was a great president. So I guess let's just start with, since we're on Abe, Hall of Presidents. And I guess you could kind of tie that in with the American adventure, right? He built that across. It's the one you see direct. Well, he didn't, but it was in the Disney vein. Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe we shouldn't talk about, well, it's an extension. We'll start with the Hall of Presidents, right? And he wanted to share that love of his country in everything he did. I think that extends too to Mark Twain, so I can tie in the American adventure. And that's why I think a lot of folks are really sad about Rivers of America going. That area, that's as American as you can get, right? You've got the Old West and the pioneer spirit, and then you've got America. And I'm sad to see that steam. That
one thing I thought of, so when it all goes away, what becomes of the Columbia Harbor House?
Well, I haven't seen any plans to change that. So they'll keep that wall running from Haunted Mansion and down and into Frontierland. It's just what's going to go on the right-hand side, right? If you're heading towards Big Thunder.
I would love to see how they're going to tie that all in, because you're going to walk down the middle of Main Street you're going to get to the end. You're going to have Columbia Harbor House, Liberty Tree Tavern, Golden Horseshoe on this side, and you got Hall of Presidents on the right. You're just going to have cars in front of you?
Well, I feel like, and I might be making this up, so if anyone in the chat knows and I'm just wrong, which I am a lot, I think they're going to have like and again, I can't find this, but I feel like the cars part will be hidden. Like there'll be some kind of
That's my hope.
Water feature, waterfalls, some kind of thing that hides the Cars ride from Frontierland. So maybe it's an embankment, right? And on the side facing the river, because I can do some research and we can circle back around later. But I think that river has to stay. Part of that water has to stay there.
Has to stay, yes, because it's a runoff.
Right. And so that's still going to be there. So they're going to need to decorate that somehow. And I think the idea was to have a water feature, some kind of waterfall, something there.
I was thinking that too, or some type of berm, like when you're walking towards the would it be the left hand? Yeah, it'd be the left hand side of Mine Train. You got Mine Train on one side, you got Bell on the other. There's kind of like a berm that you have to kind of look up and over to see the track. So I'm sure they'll come up with something else. I saw that the other day and it made me think about how they're going to tie all that together with Cars Land.
Well, I mean, they seem to do a pretty good job, right? So even when they've changed Disney Hollywood around, they've still left distinct barrier, like walking into Galaxy's Edge from Toy Story Land. You know, it's not one thing. So and Karen, that's what I'm trying to say, but not saying well. They're so good at hiding things, right? That I can't believe that even though people are up in the air and they're changing Magic Kingdom and getting rid of it. I'm one of those people. But I imagine they will still keep that story intact, right? To make that park feel and seem very much like it should be. So you'll still be standing hopefully at Hall of Presidents and feel like you're in a colonial area. The River of Poop in the middle of the
will still be there.
Will still stay.
River of Poop.
When I was researching, I didn't know this. So Walt actually gave away free tickets for Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln in Disneyland because it was so important to him to see that. And again, he loved Abraham Lincoln.
If you have not done One Man's Dream, Abe Lincoln is in there.
That's right. Isn't that wild?
That's crazy. It freaks my daughter every time she sees it.
I just saw today too, that you can do some kind of little scavenger hunt in there and get a certificate. Did you know that?
No.
Apparently, ask a cast member and they'll give you a sheet to fill out with some trivia questions to go through. You find the answers.
Oh.
And then you get certified as a Disney trivia expert.
Sounds like a YouTube video coming out soon.
Right. Maybe. I just saw it today. It's funny. Someone else did it, but I'll do it too. Why not? Everything's new to someone. And I guess, scrolling through, we probably should go backwards. That when Walt was 17, he tried to go to Europe to fight for his country, right? And was just turned down. Like he would have gone. And he drew cartoons for his high school magazine that were, supporting the war effort. And that's World War I, which is crazy to say out loud. Karen basically, by the way, just likes all the presidents. Every president she enjoys. And if you don't like one, don't tell us now. I don't want to get political. Any president before 1982. How about that? But he went off to Europe, and it said he didn't want to be called a slacker, right?
Yeah, grandkids think of him as a slacker.
So it's interesting. I kind of felt that way. My grandfathers both served in the Navy. One career and one, was I think in Korea and then came back. My great grandfather served in the Navy. My dad did not. He had think he had really bad insect allergies. And at the time when I would have joined the military, I had a much more out there idea of what I wanted to do. And so I'm not sure the military, it might have done me a lot of good, but it wasn't the appropriate time. And I have a friend who's a rear admiral who retired a few years ago. And I went to that service and it brought me to tears because I really do love my country. And I felt very guilty, a little bit of a slacker for not serving my country. So I'm very grateful. And again, in our town here, Virginia Beach, we have Norfolk, we have so much military here. So it's always been around in our life. But
yeah, both my grandfathers were Navy. They both enjoyed it. One went on a GI Bill after that. Another one became a dentist out of the Navy. I tried to join. I have asthma, so they politely said no. Two cousins. One was was an interpreter in the Air Force. The other one was a Marine. And that great uncle that was in the Navy. So we lost an great uncle in World War II. So our family is tied to the military. We love them. We do a lot with them, with our church. And I think one thing that I love about, people say walking around the corner to Main Street and seeing the castle. I feel like when I walk and turn on Main Street, it's always 4th of July.
Yeah.
It just feels that way.
That on Main Street?
Yeah.
Well, it's because it is 4th of July.
I'm just saying it's every day it just seems like it's 4th of July. They got the banners up.
Well, that's the story, right?
Right.
So that's
and I feel that.
Because that's right. I mean, think about that. Is Disneyland the same way?
I'm pretty sure.
Because that would be the one day where everyone could be out and about in the streets, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and Karen, thanks for your service. I mean, Karen was in the Air Force or Army, although she wishes she was in the Air Force. Army's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool that she served.
All of it's cool.
And our buddy Matthew says, "God bless for all those who sacrifice for us," because we're lucky, man. I mean, in reading and trying not to jump ahead, we were talking before the show. I didn't know that Walt's dad immigrated from Canada. So he came down from Canada and had to get his citizenship. And I guess at some point in time, there was some question about it and he had to go through all this stuff. And Walt said later in an interview, you think about it, we're so blessed to be American, to be lucky enough to be born here. Other folks really have to fight for it. Right. And it's worth fighting for. Right. And then, of course, World War II, right? They basically shut down the studios, made it an army base, and Walt did all kinds of propaganda and informative. Like I love to watch that different ways to machine rivet sheet metal.
Yeah.
That's a good cartoon. When my kids are bad, I put that on. And
they let them use the characters on planes and boats and. They'll let them run their way with it.
That's right. 1,200 of them, I think. Right. And I guess the studio after the military took it over was right near Lockheed Martin aircraft manufacturing site. So they did all kinds of insignias on planes with and victory through air power. How can we forget that? I mean, it gets a little over. I have 33 pages of notes, guys.
And Donald Duck was the biggest character to use.
That's right.
That's crazy.
I haven't watched Victory Through Air Power in a long time.
It's been a while.
But I believe, so since we're just kind of all over the place anyway, please correct me if I'm wrong here. And as always, send your hate mail to andrew.milan@butmostlydisney.com. The interesting thing is that Victory Through Air Power, I think, was based on a book by a Russian pilot, and Walt did it. Generals looked at it, and then basically they ended up kind of leading into the Air Force creation, right? Like the Air Force branching off from the Navy. Is that right, Karen? You might know. I don't want to be wrong because I really will get yelled at it.
Yeah, Alexander Subversive.
Yeah, don't even try.
Yeah.
It says trace back to the Balloon Corps and Civil War. Do 1907. So the Air Force, but it was the USAAF, independent of the Army during World War II. And it was 1947, which established
All about long range bombing.
Right. And so I'm pretty sure that that's kind of what led to them actually using that. And then furthermore, branching it off into a full on Air Force. Just like he's got that connection to NASA, by doing the space videos.
Videos, yep.
Or the hub system. The hub system for airlines was created because Delta execs came to Disneyland and saw how he was moving people through a theme park. And now when I go to Charleston, I fly to Boston first for some reason. Did you see, I know I had somewhere in here the numbers of which characters, here we go. So the most requested character for these, he did 1,200 unit insignias in World War II for all four branches. And then also military from the UK, Canada, China, France, New Zealand, South Africa, and Poland. The only major Disney character that didn't appear in an insignia was actually Bambi. And Hank Porter and Roy Williams were these two artists that were apparently did a lot of this stuff. And then Williams created the flying tiger insignia and later became the inventor of the mouse ears. So Karen said her dad had Snoopy on his plane. That's kind of
cool.
fun. So Donald Duck had at least 216 unit designs. All right. Any guesses for second place? In a distant second, 45 designs was Pluto, Goofy with 38, Dumbo with 20, and Mickey Mouse with 37. Snow White officially used only once for a medical unit. But that's pretty wild. Pretty wild that Mickey was that low on the people love Donald Duck, but I guess he's already in the uniform, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I wish I knew how to do these. Karen sent me pictures of her dad's plane. That's really cool. And there's old Snoopy. I do love Snoopy. Yeah, that's true. Donald had a temper that made him pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So in addition to helping out during World War II, we also know that his films, right? And I guess starting with Johnny Tremaine, maybe?
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
1957. And that obviously detailing his adventures and misadventures in the Revolutionary War in Boston with all the I can't think of any names right now. Paul Revere, who he goes to his shop.
Sam Adams.
Right. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
I was thinking beer guy.
Right. The beer guy. I need more coffee.
Coffee. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's there you go. But mostly America. And of course, Sons of Liberty. So it's hard not to think of that as obviously he loved detailing a lot of it, right? The West, pioneers. I'm trying to think of what else I've been watching recently that was, awful America. And then again, just because I'm all over the place, going forward into Tomorrowland. And even though Monsanto might be an evil corporation now, at the time, these big companies were doing a lot of interesting stuff. And
yes, they were.
Well, say it again?
No, they're saying they were. They're doing a lot of stuff.
Right. And so Walt wanted to feature all the stuff from them, all the progress. I mean, I think we've talked before. I think Walt really may have wanted to be more of a Henry Ford. He really wanted to be a captain of industry, and there's not much more American than that, right? Pollyanna, right? Set in a small American town. Marceline-esque, and her, I use that all the time. I describe myself as a little Pollyanna, but her eternal optimism. And there's the scene where they dress up in a flag. But it really is, it's described here as a love letter, for the turn of the century America and those ideals, right? Those, we could argue this, but I think if you really broke down what America is, a lot of that turn of the century citizenship, setting up into the 50s, where it really was cool to be American, and to talk about it. Walt loved the song America the Beautiful. Spacious skies, amber waves of grain. And that was in Pollyanna. And Iwerks did a film with him in the Circle Rama. To constantly the Tomorrowland opening America the Beautiful. Wow, I really can't make sentences. I really should have more caffeine for this. But that was and ran until 84. And it just boasted, pictures and movies of our country. Now I didn't know, and I was there. I guess I did know that it was in Disney World from 71 to 79 as well.
Yeah.
And they still have the Circle Rama in China and Canada, right? Mm-hmm. And even those, I don't know who made those. And again, it's post Walt. But certainly those are patriotic for other countries. I think Walt really liked doing things for, all right, I'll be right back. Andrew, you're on.
Cool. I got it. So one thing I thought was pretty cool looking through these notes was America Sings, the original soundtrack from Disneyland. Because it has Burl Ives as Sam the Eagle. I remember listening to that with my grandparents. And then to get a little bit deeper, in 1975, they had Disney's America on Parade because it was a bicentennial. It was a parade featuring Mickey, Goofy, Donald in Revolutionary War attire. I kind of wish they still had that parade today. You should at least use it during 4th of July. But then they had a lot of merchandise around it. They had shirts and T-shirts and bumper stickers and lunch boxes, and they made a big deal about patriotism, which I guess they kind of do today, but not as much as they did back then when it was a bicentennial. One thing I've read in this whole thing was in 1985, Michael Eisner offered to have the inauguration in Disney World because the weather was so cold in D.C. for Ronald Reagan. And that ties Ronald Reagan back to when he was an actor. He helped open with Art Linkletter. They opened up Disneyland in 1955. And then they did have the parade. It was the first time it was held outside the Capitol. So that was pretty cool to tie Walt and his love of the country back to when the president was an actor, that he knew Walt Disney quite well. And then when he became president, Disney was there to help him have his inaugural parade at the park. Says that 60,000 people showed up in and around Epcot. The president and first lady came in by helicopter and were met by Mickey and Minnie. I'm sure if you look on YouTube, this is out there. So after that, Epcot, which had been struggling for admission sales, was a hit. It had changed a lot over the years, was keep changing its historical American distinction. That's pretty cool that having a presidential inauguration helped boost ticket sales at Epcot. Great moments in American history we just recently had. And then it's funny, the title in this article we found is A Salute to All Nations, but Mostly America, 1991.
How's it going?
Not bad. I was talking about when it was too cold in Washington, D.C., to have the inauguration. So Michael Eisner said, why don't you have it here at Epcot? And Ronald Reagan was inaugurated at Epcot.
Was he really?
Yeah. And 60,000 people showed up. And after that, it says that once Reagan left, ticket sales went through the roof for Epcot.
I bet.
I was scrolling through this information you sent, and it got down to A salute to all nations, but mostly America.
That's right. Hey, sorry for that. Just to, my wife came in, and if you're watching the video, this is why you should join us live, guys. This is what makes the magic. She thought the house was on fire, and we came home, and it was I thought I'd done something wrong. Like she came in to interrupt me on a live podcast to tell me, like, hey, you're in trouble now. I just assumed I'd done something wrong. And and honestly, I'm so boring. Like, my wife goes out of town, and the worst thing I do is maybe eat Taco Bell in bed, so it's not like I do a lot wrong. So I was a little confused, but I hope it was her, like, diffuser, like one of those, misting.
Oh, smelling diffusers.
And so I'd noticed it was really, really thick earlier, and it smells like apples in there. It doesn't smell like smoke, but she came in to get me because it was seriously smoky in the house that it set the smoke alarm off.
Oh.
So sorry about that. All right. So, but mostly America.
Yep.
Which is, where our name comes from.
I think you think Walt Disney had a great love for America. I think so did Jim Henson, because he did a lot with the Muppets tied to America, even before it was, linked to Disney. Because how do you come up with Sand Eagle if you're not patriotic?
Right. Even if it's a caricature, right?
Right.
And then we were there, I think, in 1976 for the bicentennial, and I don't remember it.
Cool.
I would have been 5, but I remember having a shirt or a toy from there. And again, I guess we're not just talking about Walt. It's just Disney and America. Now, interestingly, American Sings was also hosted by an eagle named Sam.
Right. Yeah. It was Burl Ives did the voice of that.
Animatronic animals who found a home later in Splash Mountain.
Yes. Splash Mountain.
That's right.
Next to Mr. Tony Baxter.
And now, I don't know where they are.
They're in the store. They're in the archives, probably.
But they had, I know in the bicentennial, they had I mean, it seemed like it was on everything. And it was a big deal. Like, it was a pretty cool thing to live through. I mean, it was America, America, America everywhere you went. And so 75 Disney had, I do too, Karen. I love Burl Ives. I mean, he really just can't do much wrong, honestly. And so Disney had a parade. You had Mickey and Goofy and Donald kind of, limping along with the flute. But it was on everything. I mean, I may have had a lunchbox. I just can't remember. And I didn't save that stuff like I should have, which is sad. But I didn't know about Reagan. That's fascinating. I learn something every time I do this. Have you been, did we talk about this? Have you been to, you were at Disney on July 4th. I was at Disney on July 4th, year before last. No, you were the New Year's.
I was for New Year's.
So July 4th is, I had a great time. It was busy, but it just doesn't faze me. Except for, if you're going in the resorts, you gotta have a wristband. I saw they were doing that for Memorial Day weekend somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
They did it at Poly again. And they do it at Beach Club all the time because people try to sneak in the pool.
Which makes sense.
They have to scan your magic band. What the heck?
You all right?
Yeah, a little visitor, a spider. Oh. On my hat.
No, thanks. You can keep that. I'm glad it's a camera, not a live feed.
No delay here.
And so it says here, America on Parade never truly went away at the Disney parks. And each year around July 4th, it would make a comeback. Although I don't remember it from the year I was there, but we didn't go anywhere near the parks for that. But they did a 4th of July spectacular. Carol Burnett, Bert Convey, Tommy Tune. There's some big names. Lee Greenwood, but we know his song. And the Blue Angels, who they're always here, flew over, which is cool. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much America in these parks. And again, it's not from literally Main Street being July 4th to all, and Walt won an award as the ambassador of freedom for the United States.
And Eisenhower gave it to him.
How cool is that?
Yeah. How about America is that?
And almost everything he did was, I mean, he was a true citizen, right? Like that's one thing I don't love that my son didn't do Boy Scouts, because I feel like Boy Scouts taught citizenship, though I think his school did a pretty good job, honestly.
It did.
And that's really a big part, right, of what being American is, right? Being a citizen of our country. And like he said, that his dad had to fight to be an American, and we get to slide right in. I feel a little more American at Disney, you know, and maybe that goes along with the nicer, right? Like I said before, the kind of place where I stopped to pick up trash. We went, and honestly, it might have been the best vacation I've ever been on, but we went to South Dakota to see the Mount Rushmore, and it might be the most American I've ever felt in my entire life. Like, I know a lot of people kind of don't love it and don't think it's great. I know there's probably some controversy. You know, we all do things that aren't great. I get it. But the interesting thing to me was that somebody, and even though I think he was a drunk, got up there and carved that into the side of a mountain, you know, 4 guys that he thought was amazing. And I just think that's incredible. I just think it's wild. And so standing there in front of that was pretty wild. And that's a great vacation, by the way. If you ever want a podcast episode on South Dakota, I highly recommend you do it. It was awesome. And then again, these notes are kind of all over the place, but I didn't realize that those insignias on the planes, Walt, they gave them away. It's free. They did not charge for those at all, which is, I mean, kind of cool, right?
I think one of the cool quotes Walt has, if you could see close in my eyes, the American flag is waving on both of them, and my spine is glowing red, white, and blue stripes. Yeah. I'm like, okay, the man loves his country.
So, and if you listen, and I think most of you do, to Lou Mangello, I did copy his top 10 patriotic quotes. Disneyland would be a world of Americans, past and present, seen through the eyes of my imagination, a place of warmth, nostalgia, illusion, and color and delight. And this kind of spoke to me when I read this earlier, that I've been selfishly indulging myself as an American, as a United States citizen, enjoying all privileges that one has as a citizen. And it's only times like this that you sort of wake up to what it really means to be a citizen. Oh. And that's exactly what I think I'm talking about, is the eyes, through the eyes of being just this citizenship, you know, that we argue and we fight like a family, but we get along.
Let's talk about that new resort being built in Abu Dhabi, and people, you know, the way of life over there and the way they treat people, and you know, it's totally different than the way we do. You know, it's a totally different topic, but I think it was Lou or Becky, or might have been Bob Iger, said that we're hoping that when we build this park, that some American values come through it to help soften the culture.
Well, I think Brian said that last week, right?
Did he say that?
I thought
I remember somebody saying it.
Yeah, I was going to quote him with that, because that was one of the things, and maybe he was quoting someone else, but that was the idea, that maybe, you know, what's best of America maybe translates over there. Not that I'm not saying that anyone else is right or wrong, right? It's an opinion. Right. But I think we do pretty well over here. Michael Dolan, it's so hard. I agree. I think getting rid of Tom Sawyer and Liberty Bell isn't a good idea. It really is so American. And it seems like that there's enough room to keep that going, if for nothing else, for kids to come and maybe you get 2 or 3 that go home and read some Mark Twain, which, he's the quintessential American author, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, a long time ago. And Karen says, I think we've all said that, Karen, right? In America, I may get this tattooed on me. We are guaranteed these freedoms. It's the constitutional privilege of every American to become cultured or to grow up like Donald Duck. And tomorrow we better as long as America keeps alive the ideals of freedom and a better life. And I love that. I love the flag ceremony. Karen brought it up earlier. And I guess maybe it was Brian again last week, which I didn't realize they do it a little differently than in Walt Disney World.
He did say that.
Yeah, they pick a family, a military family to come and be part of taking the flag down. And then in Disneyland, they have everybody kind of rally around and join it. And they're both, I'm sure, beautiful ceremonies. I'll have to check it out when I go end of July. I'll try to stick around and see. Because I like that. In Boy Scouts, I was on color guard, and I always enjoyed doing that. Like the ceremony gets to me, right? And look, okay, so maybe it's not just Walt, but certainly everything stands on his shoulders, and the American Pavilion, that American adventure, I love, and my kids don't love doing it all the time, and I don't just do it for the air conditioning, but I think that thing is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that story. I love what it tells. I mean, it is moving, almost to the point of tears, right? But I get that way. I get wistful. And then Voices of Liberty before you go in, right? Literally in the name, Voices of Liberty. It's hard not to be as American as that. Which maybe they're best at Christmas, but that's just because I love Christmas. And it's American to love Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another friend of mine, Jill, had sent me that there's a table for the fallen soldier set up in the Craftsman's Bar in Grand California in Disneyland. And that's pretty cool.
I did get to experience I think it was the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds. They flew over Main Street in the castle. I'm like, that was pretty cool. Again, I think if you didn't get goosebumps watching that's more America being shown right there. Everybody who's hollering and screaming and having, fun seeing the planes come over. That screams America.
We live right in the middle of all that, so we see them quite a bit. Like it's funny when you see, like, you'll go to the beach here and there'll be a tourist and they're pointing at the jets and you're kind of rolling your eyes because they kept you awake when you were trying to nap. But it is Sound of Freedom and
trying to think which National Guard is close to us. They patrol the beach. They'll do a chopper run down the beach every Saturday.
But it's easy to forget, right? Like, I always wonder, and I know in my lifetime, it hasn't been something, or maybe it has, something as auspicious or as grand as, and I mean that in a negative way, as World War II. But I always feel like it's easy for us to forget how, or for me, how easy it is for me to forget how easy my life can be at times, right? Because people are somewhere in a foxhole, and I'm sitting here in front of a computer, worried that my diffuser is on too high, and I again, I meant Happy Memorial Day in the nicest, kindest, most wonderful, reverential way possible. But it is easy to forget that this country was not free, right? I mean, there was a huge price tag on what we do. And it's good. It's good that Walt carried that with him everywhere, even the arguments, even people not getting along, arguing about politics or favorite color or paint or whatever you're arguing about, that's pretty American, right? We've been yelling at each other since at least 1776, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like that's a pretty good representation of patriotism in the parks. even if it was a little disorganized,
No, I think
like America.
there's so much you want to talk about every bit of it because it meant a lot to Walt. It means a lot to us. I tell people all the time, if you can't love this country, feel free to leave.
Right. Or work to change it, right? I mean, that's American too.
Exactly.
We're allowed to grow.
But grow as adults.
Yeah.
Like I talked about earlier.
It is a pretty awesome place to live. And Walt knew that. And Walt wanted to make sure, I think, that we knew that. Even though I'm not trying to speak for Walt. Again, all mail goes to Andrew. Yes. He's in charge of email. I'm trying to think if there's anything else for this week. That might be it.
Right.
Just an easy little show. I know coming up on June 2nd, I haven't even told Andrew this, but Andrew Prince is going to come on.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to find something, a good topic to talk about with him because he's excited and I'm excited to have him on.
That'd be awesome.
He's a big fan and a good guy.
I'm assuming his mom will be on with him.
Vanessa, who's also lovely. But Andrew's got a great channel, Accessible Adventures by Andrew, and he's a pretty tough customer. Yeah. He's pretty amazing in what he does.
Positivity oozing right there.
Very American. To keep that kind of going.
Yep.
And other than that, that's it, man. I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day. Please go to butmostlydisney.com and sign up for the newsletter, which is also sporadic at best, but I'm working on it to get that to be a little more regular. I like to shoot it out on Mondays. It'll come out tomorrow morning. No long video this week. I'm getting low material, which means I have to go back to Disney. Darn it. These are the sacrifices I make for you guys. Andrew, how's your channel coming?
It's slow. I got to do better. I had something, didn't like it, deleted it, starting back over. I myself need to get some more better content. I didn't like anything I recorded the last time I went. So hopefully be down in July and most likely August. So, and then I got to start looking at stuff for October and for Halloween and Christmas. So maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, it's, doing this stuff is tough. And I especially when I look at the stuff I've recorded and then go try to put it into a video, it seems to come out. I end up sort of liking what I do. I don't ever want to watch it again. Right. But it's not easy. So be gentle with your criticisms, unless you're correcting my spelling, Karen, and then you can be as brutal as you like, because I have no problem with that. So follow us on the social media, but mostly Disney. We post everything there. It's where to find out when we're going live. I think next week might be a different day. I'll tell you right now. Again, another reason to tune in live. But I'm pretty sure next Tuesday I've got something and can't be here. Yes. The 3rd. Is that next Tuesday?
Yes, it is.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 3rd.
Wow. So we'll be Monday night. We'll if Andrew can make it, we'll do with Andrew Prince. Yep. So until then, we'll see you a week from today. Thanks for joining in, and see you real soon.
Have a good week, everybody.